G'day, doggies fans, all things Bulldogs. It's episode 12 or 13, the podcast. You can now get this podcast as a podcast, so you don't have to look at my ugly head. And, unfortunately, my daughter got to read a couple of comments. People attacking my beautiful noggin. So, I don't even know where my noggin is. So for those people who'd prefer not to look at this beautiful face that only my mother could love, feel free to check out the podcasts. I've got a link tree as well if you want to look it up. But there's it's on Amazon, Spotify, Google, Apple, a whole bunch of them. And I do that because some people do prefer just to listen to podcasts and not have the data. That's why I got feedback. They'd prefer to just listen to it and download it, and it doesn't take up much space on their phone and stuff like that, which is important these days when we're getting charged for, storage and data and all that sort of stuff. So enjoy it that way if you wish. Thanks to everyone who's liked and subscribed so far. It continues to grow, which I'm really happy about. And yes, we'll move on. So a bit to talk about. Try to get this done in under half an hour, which should be able to do. We've got the game against the Raiders. I'll quickly go over that and what I liked and didn't like in that game. No ratings. Sort of hard to keep rating them. It's very subjective anyway and individual to myself. So, and just no time at the moment. So we'll just talk about it. I've got Canterbury and Manly's lineups named scrolling along the bottom of the screen, which you can see down there. So check that out. I've also got the New South Wales Cup team. So we'll talk about that game, and also going to discuss where's Jackson Topine and the fortunes of New South Wales Cup, which now need to win the last match and have other results go their way, which isn't a good thing because it's been the flag for us. But I think it's also part of our issue is that we've had too many New South Wales Cup players that are very good at that level, that have got experience in first grade, where they wouldn't have got experience in first grade in other clubs necessarily. And I think it's created a bottleneck of players that, we've had to really sort of trial this year to see who is going to be there for the future. And it hasn't been an easy thing by the look of it. And there's been a lot of chopping and changing. People are starting to say, but there are some people out there that, every decision the club makes, anytime there's something goes wrong, all they do is start to make stuff up in their little brains and start having a big carry on. So it was suggested that Serrato mid-season started having more of a say on the New South Wales Cup team, which is not true. They've been playing a style across all grades, which will marry up with the first grade side in the future. And it's quite easy to see that when the games I've watched. They've played in some same ways. And the thing about it is that they've had, when their skill level and ability has been better than, and experience has been better than their opposition in those lower grades, they execute that type of scenario very well. And if you look at the New South Wales Cup team, for example, they were the best defensive side, averaging less than 2 tries a game for the first half of the season. Now, that's fallen off a cliff, and I understand that. But that system was brought into the club. There's been so many times where you watch New South Wales Cup, or you get to a flag game, or you'd see it on New South Wales Rugby League. And only seen a few flag games last year and a couple of SG Balls and Harold Matson along the way, but it's like they were being trained differently. And we've had success in Harold Mats. SG Ball, I felt, were disappointing because they had a lot of talent there. But a lot of that talent has still progressed into Ron Massey Cup, into Jersey Flag as well. Some really good players, and Jersey Flag's been going great. struggle against the Knights, who got runner-up in Harold Matts against us. Or not runner-up, made the semis, I should say. No, they got runner-up. They made the grand final. What am I talking about? We beat Penrith in the semis. So Knights have always had a lot of talent. So it's not really a huge concern, but they have had to be pretty resilient, having sometimes 10 and 11 changes happen in 1 week, going from Flegg back to Ron Massey, back to Flegg, very, very interesting stuff. So there you go. In relation, we'll talk a bit about, though, where's Jackson Topine in relation to that. Let's talk about that now while we're on it. So they've fallen off a cliff. They're now likely to miss the finals, even if they beat Blacktown, who are ahead of us on the ladder. I think they're in 5th. If they win, they make the finals. If we win, I think we're about 20 points differential below the Panthers. We were the number 1 differential team for a long time, but being flogged numerous times in recent weeks, which has not helped us at all. We had 3 draws in the season. 3 draws. You had 6 points to our total. We're sitting on 37. We're on top. 35. Win 2 of those games. Make the finals easily. Can we get to the finals and then do something there? Maybe. But it's likely we won't make it. And I've noticed that it's really fallen off a cliff since Jackson Topine was playing in NRL. And now he's fallen off he's nowhere. And there's no answer from the club where he is. Now, sometimes you don't want to ask questions when you don't want to know what the answer is. And I'm really afraid that something's happened off field, or he's having some really bad head moments or something like that. Like, I'm sure, being one of the heart and soul players within our system, whether he's good enough to be a regular first grader or not, it's another thing. As a clubman, he's absolutely almost beyond comparison. Sings our team song. Ockenball's the deputy for the team song. He's sung it 2 or 3 times when Jackson hasn't been able to be there. But, where is he? And his defence on the right edge, played a lot on the left edge this year as well. When Katoga come in, they moved him to the left edge, which don't know if that might have been the beginning of something there. But he just gives his all. Was exposed badly against the Broncos. Has had to play centre on the left. After 10 minutes in 2 games where we lost our wingers, and got exposed badly. It just can't be good for the confidence. He's a kid who just looks like has just taken everything on board, and whatever deficiencies he's had, tried to work on it and improved. His line running last year was a feature, and it looked just as good this year as well. And his defence looked a lot better on those edges in New South Wales Cup. At that level, he's fine. In NRL, it's another step up. Still very young. Just turned 22 this week. I just hope he's all right. Great kid. And, if there's something going on there, that could be another reason as to why things have fallen off. I'm not going to sit there and just blame the one coach. It's not Cameron Serrato's fault directly. They're a whole coaching team. And one thing I like want people to think about is, in losing teams, who's attacking the assistant coaches, especially in the media. Yet winning teams, who's getting a lot of the credit? Assistant coaches. It's like, well, maybe they should do more. I think that what the game needs to do, and what the media could do a lot better, is promote how things work in a match. Actually understand it, rather than being reactive to results all the time. And they make it all about winning and losing. How about you talk about how a play is constructed, how numerous sets lead to outcomes? How about you educate the fans a little bit and engage us a little bit more that way, rather than waiting 3 weeks to release a story for the right time based on the performance on the weekend. And I talked, so turmoil at Souths. Would have been good to have Dane on tonight actually to talk about that. He's at Threadborough, as I said. Those sort of things, they're happening at every club at this time of year. Even successful clubs are having issues off the field. And that's because you've got people who are leaving the organisation. This tall poppy syndrome as well, it's at every club. A leader has to manage them as a team, but also as individuals. And some people, you're always going to have people say that they do more than the person on who gets more, that they have to work harder and yada, 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 that they're delivering more value. You get egos come into play. You have partners who see this as well and tell their partners that. I can't believe I'm sitting here in a 3-bedroom unit and we're on minimum wage. And look at your stats and look what your effort is compared to this person on 800 grand who doesn't play. Like, I'm sure it would happen. The clubs have got to deal with all this stuff. And at Canterbury, it's been a revolving door. And we know this. But not just since Phil Gould came. It's been happening for about 6 or 7 years. And as we talked about last week, the number one stat for winning games is games of experience on the field and games played together. It lines up. And how can we do that if we've constantly got youngsters who find themselves in first grade way too easily? But if you listen to fans, every year when things are going out of, when we've lost hope, for example, bring all the young guys in that are killing it in New South Wales Cup. They're killing it in New South Wales Cup because they've got a lot of experience. They've played first grade and either weren't ready or just not quite up to it. I hear stuff, if they're young enough, they're good enough. If they're superstars. And the word superstar is easily given to too many people. Star even. We've had a lot of players which are very good at New South Wales Cup level, fringe first graders, could do a job and develop in a good system where there's good players around them, well, and some could take a next step potentially. But the majority of people who leave our club aren't on marquee money, aren't on big money, and are good value signings for other clubs and can do a job. J&K and Avarillo, maybe a little bit different. We developed that little guy, Jeremy Marshall-King, for 3 years into a hooker. And he could have been a great adversary for Ed Marnie on good money. If you had to pay $1 million to have Marnie and Jeremy Marshall-King at your club, as a 1-2 punch and utility, you wouldn't get much better. But anyway, they brought New Brown in, didn't utilise him that way, unfortunately, which I think sucked. But anyway, I'll move on. I say anyway a lot, I'm trying to move myself on. Let's look at last week's game against the Raiders. The Canberra Raiders, last year in round 9, I think they weren't going that well at all, and neither were we. Both teams played poorly. We started that game well. 5 minutes to go, still well in it. I think down 10-6, they score a late try, 14-4 or 14-6 they won, something like that. And then the next week we lost to the Knights in another pretty close game, and it was the end of Trent Barrett. The thing with that game against the Raiders is they then started to improve and went on a run. And I'm just wondering if that win against us will trigger another run for them. If they had everything to play for, still a chance at the top 4. But if they lost, they could have, and then didn't get their season on track in the next 2 games, they could miss the 8. It's that cutthroat at the moment, and star-studded forward pack. A lot of experience across the board. They were missing Jack Whiten, which is a huge out for them. But Frawley's always pulled our pants down as a fill-in for the Raiders, which is funny enough. And then he come to the Bulldogs and had a couple of good games for us. So not a bad replacement to have. Does the job against us. At 18 all, I felt. Look, the positives is that we had much better cover defence, much better desperation, and edges held up pretty well for the most part. And so did and we repelled repeat sets of 6 on about three different occasions on our line, which we haven't been able to do. Could tell you a bit about the clunkiness of the Raiders and the lack of confidence of them at the moment. True. Not getting ahead of myself. I think we should have won that match. And if we played with poise and showed a bit more patience and maintained possession, if we'd got 75% possession in that match, we're going on and win it. I don't believe we would have fatigued to the point where at 42% possession at the 60-minute mark, we then, or 44% or whatever it was, just run out of puff and then just start to concede those tries on our line again, essentially. And then the game got away with us, fought for a late try. But look, it come down to possession at the end of the day, and we didn't value it. Too many silly errors. And that was the case in that game. That's not coached. Mental fatigue causes people to make poor decisions. And through our team, all season I've seen times where we've got into the grind and a poor decision's been made, which has given the ball back, and then it's fallen apart. Spacing on our defence, it's fine when we're not fatigued, but under fatigue, too many players then, either stay too tight to the ruck. I see Mann sometimes stay too tight instead of pushing out. You've got, and not just him, numerous players, and then we have our small players isolated quite easily. Through the middle, one-out plays, which a lot of teams do to us, they play the ball. We can't, get someone to marker, or we've only got one marker, then they just play the numbers. And the good teams, and most teams with an experienced half and a handy fullback will just pick us apart. Wait for us to react in defence. Someone's going to crack, and then they, play the numbers and score. Regarding our performance, I felt, look, the Raiders were there for the taking. That should have been a game we could have won. If they play with more poise, more patience, which I have been talking about all year, I think we can defeat Manly. So let's move on to Manly. On paper, I see a good balance across both teams on paper. And I think that the Dogs can defeat Manly. The big thing, though, is Daly Cherry Evans and Lachlan Croker. Their combination has been there about 4 years now, and it shows. They're starting to learn how to play better without Tommy Turbo, and been quite resilient this year, to be honest. They don't have their normal front rower, but they do have Sipley, who has sort of built into the season. He's playing quite well. He was quite good against us in the last round last year before running out of puff. I think he's fitter and better this year, and he's been playing well in reserve grade and doing all right. Kepi's a first grader every day of the week. Olakawatu versus Kikau. Now, in round one, Kikau, remember he lost his father, got injured in pre-season as well, had a very short pre-season at a new club. After a long season playing the World Cup previously. He was completely underdone, as was Burton, as was the Fox, and a rookie in Alamotti to start. Edges held up all right, but we were clunky as hell, especially on that edge. and everything come down our right edge for a few games. But Kikau has now had, this will be, I think, his 4th game back. He played 4 at the start of the season. The first game was poor, bounced back really well against Melbourne and the Tigers. Did go off the ball a little bit about the 60-minute mark in both those games defensively, but his effort for the first 60 was probably the most in the side. He puts in a lot of effort, and he's from a system where that's what they do. They put in effort all game, but they've got so much effort coming from their whole 17 and the fitness that plays into it and the way it works that they're able to cover fatigue. They're able to do it. There's players who walk in the Panthers as well, okay? Now, it might not be Dylan Edwards, who's a true leader out there, but they have players who walk like we do. Fatigue kills you, and it kills you mentally as well. Look, it's just natural, it's human, and I think we put a lot of criticism where it's probably not required or realistic, to be honest. So, look, I think that Kikau is going to have a much better game against Olakau'atu in this round. And Manly, they are ripe for the taking. They've had a long season. They've been competing for a new coach, learning how to play without Tom. They've got Jake back the last few weeks. Their wins and losses have all been fairly strong performances, I've felt, and have been a chance at winning every game for the majority. If they go out there, I think they're ripe for the taking because I think there will naturally be a moment now where it doesn't mean as much. And while that's been us for a while, we want to finish our season off well. Look, they may also throw caution to the wind, Manly, which could result in a lot of mistakes and missed opportunities, or giving us more. Or they could, nail those and put us to sleep quickly. Who knows? But I think, they've got that speed with Kula and Saab. We've got Addo, Carr, Wilson, and Avarillo. So we do have speed as well. The centre pairings are quite evenly matched, I feel. They've got the bloke on their wing, Veiga, he really rips in hard. Look, not many changes to our side. Edwards goes into that lock position. I think we're a lot better with him there because he's a workhorse. With Waddell there as well and Kikau, you've got workers. And then that way you can bring Thompson on, you can bring Moran on as impact, Tavita as impact. But you've got the workers on the field, Liam Knight to hold it up in the middle, King to play consistent footy. I feel that Max King's been good the last 3 or 4 weeks. He started to, he's, I think, having a couple of freshen ups, dealing with his injuries that he's had, and I think still carrying, by the way. He's been a lot better for longer periods. So getting back to his consistent best, which is good. Karaz was better last week. Look, we can do it, but we need our leaders, Marnie, Burton, Sexton, Avarillo in our spine, and those big boys to hold it up. That spine to play with some poise and patience, and we can get it done. Trust me. I think the Titans in the last round will be tough at the Gold Coast. I'll be there to watch that match with my daughter. So I'll be looking forward to that. I've already got tickets. Let's get there and wear your sunnies and a hat because you get the sun in your eyes in the away supporters bay at the Titans if it's in the same spot. So, yes, big game for the Dogs, big game for Manly. Manly aren't in contention anymore. That's a big chance for us. Normally you should want to go out there and play a team at their best and whatever, but it's just not what we need right now. The team needs to get some confidence, get a win up, and move into that last game against the Titans with a bit of confidence and feeling good about their combinations on the field. So there you go. Congratulations to Joseph O'Neill, named at number 23 on the bench, extended bench. Very good young kids being extended for another year, I think. Probably on a lower tier contract for a lower grade, but he looks like a really solid half. Not sure. I think Bailey Hayward's got injuries or something. Not seen him for a couple of weeks either. So glad to hear your feedback about it. Do you think we can beat Manly? What do you think about New South Wales Cup? Has anyone heard anything about Jackson Topine? And yes, I will be doing a feature on all the new recruits we've got in the last couple of years, the ones that are contributing and I expect to contribute, and how to look for 2024. And we'll also talk about the top 30 as well once we get more on that. Some news have just come in. It just flashed up on my phone. Kurt Mann is they're potentially looking at him. Now, look, he is every time he plays for Newcastle, I find he's pivotal to them doing well in the match. He's one of their most consistent players. He plays a lot of energy and brings impact off the bench and plays in that small middle role. And I think he's really good at it. We had New Brown. They tried to mould New Brown into that. We just got Jamin Salmon for that. I guess we're letting go of Kyle Flanagan. Kurt Mann, he can play in the halves. Look, he's not a superstar, but most of the superstars aren't superstars either. Really. I've called Jacob Carrez a superstar. I think he is. He is, but he's probably not. You know what I mean? Not yet. Just we naturally jump the gun on these things. So would he be a good signing? He's not the answer, I don't think. I think they've got to develop it. He will add depth, though. And look, he's got a lot of experience as well. Adds experience to our team. I think, 160, 70 games. Apparently not wanted by Newcastle. So tell me what you think about Kurt Mann. He's not – I know everyone wants a marquee 7 and a marquee 8, but they're not there. They've been signed up, and those players which hold the purse strings to success in their teams don't come to teams that they don't trust are going to be successful. And they don't go to teams that are going to take dollars off their salary. That's just the reality. That's just the reality. They've got to think about their life decisions. So until we get up that ladder a little bit, have those pathways continue to fortify and strengthen, that's when we'll see the big fish land. We need to value players that are coming like Crichton and Kikau and the Burtons and the Foxes and all them. And I'll talk about that because it's going to help take us to that next level. Is that next level finals? I think we're going to need a lot of luck. Just like this year, we're always going to need a lot of luck, and we got none. None. Jacob Preston, was that luck? Don't think so. But you need some luck when you're coming from where we've come from. The fact we've matched the same amount of wins at the same point of the season. We got there a lot quicker this year. We were, 4-4. Still in contention. 8 rounds into last year, we're on 1 win. No, 2 wins, sorry. We've beaten the Roosters and the Cowboys. And it was basically gone, lost the next 2 games. It was over. Completely over. All right, so 29 minutes. That's pretty much it. No Dogfather again this week. I think he's trying to stay out of the spotlight, so we'll see what happens. If he'll come on at some point. He's looking forward to the next fight, I heard, between Brubaker and the Butcher, Costazu's brother, Nikita. I like watching Nikita fight. Anyway, I think he's excited for that and some other stuff. But I'm starting to ramble now. Thanks to everyone who's listened into the podcast. It's been great sharing it. Like and subscribe and all that sort of stuff. Gamble responsibly, all the stuff that they say. And thank you very much for tuning in and glad to hear your thoughts about it. Take care. And remember, you can get the podcast now and just listen to it so you don't have to look at this lovely face. See yous.